Hey, we're here in the Iron Horse Social Club in beautiful downtown Savannah, Illinois. Changed things up with Mo. We were riding a Victory Gunner with a couple aftermarket parts on it, and we came back to this part of the world. I'd never been to the Harley factory. We've never been to the.
I've never been to Harley either.
Yeah.
Scott has.
And it so happens there's an Indian assembly plant back here also, right up the road. So we got a Harley Road King.
Yeah, we have a Harley Road King,
which is cool because I think it's about 20 years since I had the privilege of going back to the York plant to get a Road King and rode it back across the states, back before the World Wide Web ruined my life. And we have to post stuff every day. So we have a Harley Road King. We have a Indian Springfield, which is Indian's big chief type, big touring bike with hard bags on it and a plastic old style, cop style windshield on it. We're right next to the Mississippi River here.
We're always testing these American motorcycles out in California because that's where we all live and our offices are, and offices in quotes, right? It just seemed like, look, we want to do another big cruiser story. We've been a little light on cruiser content, so what the heck, let's come back, see some stuff we've never seen before, and maybe understand cruises a little better than you can understand them in SoCal. And it already is pretty clear that they make a lot more sense out here than they do out there, isn't it?
That's kind of the deal, isn't it? Kind of the geography
Yeah.
in terms of style of bike.
It's amazing. You get on these things, and we're used to riding with a lot of congestion. The two lanes that we like to ride on in California are typically very serpentine. Probably not the best place to actually try and ring out one of these cruisers. And you get back here, you get these meandering two lanes through the woods.
Everyone's driving slow.
Everybody is cruising, at a reasonable pace, and that's where these bikes really come into their own. From a performance standpoint, all three of them so far, in my experience, have been excellent. Overall, I mean, it's just been a fantastic, epic ride for me for the last couple of days already, and looking forward to more of it.
We've now turned northbound. We're on day 2, and we're heading all the way up to Osceola, Wisconsin.
Which is where the Indian plant
Wisconsin.
is, right?
And once we get up there, we'll be at the Polaris and Indian factory, or the Victory and Indian engine plant tomorrow morning. We actually have a long way to go. We just stopped for a drink because it's a little hot out there. But yesterday...
They have a short stop, and it always turns into a long one, huh?
Exactly. Yesterday we did the length of Illinois at 45 miles an hour in a construction zone. I'm kind of glad I wasn't on a Panigale, I got to tell you the truth.
I have to say, thanks to my Dainese ventilated jacket, I was actually okay. As long as we kept moving yesterday, it was all right.
Here to talk about these 3 American cruisers that are all built within a very long stone's throw of this point that we're sitting in right now, and we're going to connect the dots as we ride between them testing these bikes.
I really like the Harley a lot. I really like the big Indian Springfield a lot. But the main difference I felt is when I'm on the Harley, I'm a lot cooler. That big 111 Indian motor, it looks cool and it makes more power and it goes better, but it puts out more heat too, like the bottoms of my legs on that thing.
Yeah, and that's
feel a lot warmer.
That's a recent thing, because the Harleys used to be terrible when it was hot out, particularly inside of your right thigh. And now with their newer heat management solutions, the Harley, you almost don't notice it at all.
I guess it's all relative, because I rode an Indian like that one around Texas a lot a couple of years ago, and I didn't really notice that much, but when you ride it alongside the Harley, you can really tell the difference.
I don't notice the heat as much on the Victory at all, and I certainly don't notice it on the Harley-Davidson, which is mind-blowing for me because I'm used to the older Harley-Davidson twin cam engines that were extremely hot. And I was surprised at just how nice the air, the heat stays away from your legs on this one. Which takes away from me from an Indian that I think ergonomically is probably the best of the 3 for me. It's nice and lower to the ground. The seat is wider. I don't feel like I'm locked into one position like I am on the Harley. And the floorboards are a little bit longer, which gives you just a little bit more room to plant your feet the way you want. But again, the heat gets to me. That's a negative for the Indian for me, which is a shame because I like the way it looks. I love the engine. It's, clutch and transmission are very good, although I think the Harley actually edges them in shift feel and refinement that way as well.
A little more noise though on the Harley. The Harley and Indian both were quite pleasant for me for those long, straight, middle of the U.S. kind of roads. But I got on the Victory Gunner, which is, if I had a favorite cruiser, it would be the Victory Gunner because it looks cool and it works great. But I did notice that even out here where it's flat and there's not a lot of turns, that thing will scrape its pegs if you just look at it sideways. Like that thing's got zero lean angle. It scrapes everywhere. And it's the sportiest of the 3 bikes we have. You would think maybe it would have more corner clearance, but it has the least. And then the other thing is, its seat really locks you in only one position, and it's got a kind of, that little lip on the back of the seat, and that's pushing against your tailbone, and you try to scoot back to get more comfortable. Your feet are too far out in front of you to do that, so you're riding down the freeway, and you just...
In this test, kind of one of these things is not like the other ones. Gunner's more of an around town bike.
Bar hopper. It's a bar hopper.
So it's nice that Victory, makes the windshield optional equipment and the little small bags it's got are nice for carrying a little bit around.
Sunscreen.
But if you're doing the kind of riding that we're doing, like these long days, it's not really the bike for the job. But Gunner's a nice bike for, if you're only going to do a short day ride around, but you wouldn't want to go like 4 or 5 days on that.
Maybe we call this the Homeland or the Heartland Tour or the Homeland Tour or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because this really is a touring story. It's not a cruiser. It is a 3-bike cruiser shootout, but it's almost a 1,000-mile loop around. It's far more of a tour than it is a cruise, right?
The Gunner doesn't really feel like it likes that fairing bolted or bolted
no,
towards
not at
fork.
all.
You get going 80 on the freeway. If you come up behind an 18-wheeler or something, it's a little bit. I mean, if you're an experienced motorcycle guy, you're not worried. Yeah. But if you were just getting started and the bar started to do that, you might
freak you out.
You wouldn't like it much. We'll talk more next time we stop.
We have miles and days ahead, so
before we sleep,
more discoveries coming soon. On day one, we were like, gosh, it really seems like this Harley's way better. And we particularly had a rough time with the Victory. In fact, we did earlier, you saw the round table we did in the social club. And that was after 1 day of riding in hot weather at slow speeds in a straight line. And we were like, the Victory's not cut out for this job. And the Harley's so much better than everything else, it's crazy. But then the next day, that long ride up the Mississippi ended up being we thought it was going to be a hell day, and it ended up being a really nice day, like a really great ride.
It was a great day, but it wound up being a really long day, huh?
Yeah.
We didn't get where we were going until like 12:30 at night.
Yeah, that was like an 8 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Kind of an important test for these kind of bikes, though, to really spend at least one really long day on them, because you really figure out if you like the thing or not. Right. Then.
And we figured out that we didn't hate the Victory so much like we thought we did. And that
I don't think we ever hated it, did you?
No, but we complained about it. And
I complained it has a little bit different ergonomics than the others.
Yeah.
But after a while, your body kind of adjusts, huh?
Yeah, I guess that's what it was, because on day two, it was much more pleasant, or seemed much more pleasant. And the Indians seemed quite a bit better, because day two wasn't as hot as day one, so the motor heat wasn't frying our legs so much.
I was dressed for hot weather, and it's kind of been cool the whole time. So I enjoyed being on the Indian a lot just because of that.
We thought the Harley was the best, and we had a cooler ride. We thought the Indian was the best, and then you get back on the Harley and like, no, maybe this is the best. In my book, they're almost tied, but for different reasons. The Indian has some clear strengths over the Harley, and the Harley has some clear strengths over the Indian.
I think so.
And those strengths being super smooth ride, really good suspension tuning, right? It's not you get on the choppy stuff, and the Victory feels a little choppy. The Harley can feel a little choppy, but not as choppy as the Victory. And the Indian just goes whoa, whoa, whoa down the road. It's really nice.
Right as we left Osceola, Wisconsin, there was a Highway 61, Wisconsin, was a really broken up pavement and not a nice road. And heretofore on the Harley, everything had been nice and smooth, and we hit that, and the grips were coming out of my hands.
And it was kind of going clank.
It was clank, clank, clank. And I talked to Scott, who was on the Indian. He said, "No, it was smooth. It was nice." So that thing has the Cadillac ride on all surfaces.
It does. So probably the best suspension for touring and for cruising. But then another aspect of chassis, of course, is geometry and handling, and that's where, in my book, the Harley's got it all over the Indian. The Indian does feel long and a little slow steering and a little heavier feel. They're close in weight, but the Indian feels quite a bit heavier underway, whereas the Harleys, it turns quicker, it turns easier, it has more ground clearance, and so I think the Harley handles better, but the Indian rides better and has a better suspension.
And the thing that we learned coming back to this part of the country is that you don't really need to handle quickly. You just need a stable thing.
Correct.
And so even if one doesn't have as much ground clearance, it's really kind of moot.
Without the heat, we would say it's a clear win for the Indian. And at least in my book, it is so close to a tie that I'm going to have to go to the scorecard before I can announce which one I think is better. Because if I ride that next, I'm going to say the Indian's better. Yeah. And then I get back on that and I'll be like, yeah, Harley's better.
Yeah, and in general, 20 years ago when I was a kid, I didn't want to ride any of these, but now I could go places on the Harley or the Indian. If it was a hot place, I want to go on the Harley though.
Yeah, or a twisty place.
It amazed me after 1,000 miles on these motorcycles just how competitive they are for motorcycles that aren't designed for competitive arenas. The Indian has an awesome 111 cubic inch V-twin engine that makes an awesome amount of power down low, pulls really hard, really responsive. Excellent ride for me. I thought the suspension was the best of the lot, and I thought the ergonomics were the best of the lot. I really like where it puts your arms, where the long footboards, the wide seat. I think we went over all that the other day. I think it steers a little slow. I think it's a little bit heavy-handed and deliberate when it comes to steering compared to the other two. What I still come back to every time I ride a Victory though is how much I appreciate the Freedom 106 motor with the 6-speed transmission. It's an overhead cam motor, it's 4 valves per cylinder, and yet it has a very American cruiser-like feel to it that's very familiar and for me, just excellent. It's all you really need, The Harley is familiar to me. I mean, they've done so many things to improve it, and one of the things was getting rid of the heat from that 103 cubic inch engine. I mean, I couldn't believe that I was riding a Harley. It had been a while since I'd been on one. Just how cool and comfortable that bike was.
95-degree day, and it wasn't bad.
In a 95-degree day. So I think the level of refinement on the Harley is just a touch better than maybe the other two, although I still give the Victory high marks for refinement. There's just a couple of things about it that make it a little bit different than the more touring-oriented platforms that the Road King and the Springfield are.
The Harley feels a little bit more like a standard motorcycle, meaning not so much a chopper or a cruiser, not a sport bike, sort of like just a normal geometry. Your hands are right here, and I know for you the bars are a little high.
My hands were up here.
But my shoulders being up, for me it's a very natural position. But I hopped on the Harley and I rode it around, and I said to myself, continuous production for 112, 113 years, and it feels like a company that's been making motorcycles for 112 years. Like the basic, this isn't their super long stretched out bike. It's not their Sportster. It's a large motorcycle that works great as a tourer, works great as a cruiser, but it's not way far off. It's kind of just a straight up motorcycle, and it rides the most like just a straight up motorcycle, like if you were going to commute on it or ride it on the twisty roads or things like that. Right. But they get it right, particularly on the Road King. It may be my favorite Harley just because the way it rides. Mm-hmm. And you get on the Indian, and the refinement and the smoothness of the motor and the suspension are great, but it doesn't have that natural feel that the Harley does, and that's probably going to take some more years for them to get to the point where they can make a motorcycle that size and weight that actually feels smaller than it is. The Harley feels smaller than it is when you're riding it, and in my book that's a good thing. Here's 3 motorcycles ridden for 1,000 miles over some extremely varied road surfaces, but generally trending to the rough side. Yeah. And nothing's fallen off, nothing's leaked, not a hiccup, not a complaint.
Nothing at all.
Hot temperature, cold temperature, rain. Not a single flaw that we could find in any of the 3 bikes from a quality standpoint or a liability standpoint.
Is that an oil spot under the Harley?
Oh, stop it, John.
Oh,
Burns.
that's a pre-existing
Stop
one.
it.
I'm sorry. No, it's not. No, there's not a drop. And that's probably the big difference between now and what these bikes look like, because these are neo-classical motorcycles. I can totally see the appeal after being back here in the part of the country where they're built, where they come from.
After 4 days and 1,000 miles on the road, seeing a part of America that we generally don't see, I'd have to say we win, and it's as simple as that. I've always been maybe the farthest from the cruiser guy in Mo. Like, I've never been a cruiser guy. So I come out here, and I think for the first time ever, I might be able to say I get it. And if I lived here, I don't think there's something I would want different than a cruiser, because that's the only kind of riding that really makes sense out here.
You can't lane split.
Can't lane split.
There's not any mountains.
The average speeds are not particularly high, you know.
If you live back here, they'd be higher, but.
Well, I'd bring the average up.
You'd raise the average.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is.
Cool. Well, I just want to say thanks for having me, John and Sean. I mean, it was a really great week, and it's not something I get to do all that often anymore, but I really enjoyed it, and this was a great class of bike for us to be back here in the Midwest on, with all those meandering 2 lanes and you know, all that beautiful scenery. Like, you had, you know, it's a motorcycle. All the motorcycles are the kind that you can just kind of back it down a notch, and it's not an athletic experience. You're just back down, you're cruising, as the name implies, and you're just able to check out the scenery. And there's, you know, this is a country that has, part of the country that has awesome stuff to look at, you know, off the sides of the road. And so it was a great experience for me, and I really appreciate it.
We're gonna have to go back to the office, fill out the scorecard. Even after 4 days riding around, I don't know if I like the Harley better than the Indian. And the Victory, we already said it's not really, it was kind of along for the ride, but it's not really part of this comparison. But it turned out not being such a bad bike to ride. Anyway, we're gonna go back to the office, fill out the scorecard, parse what we like, what we don't like about each bike, like we always do in the scorecard. And you'll have to go to Motorcycle.com to read it, to see which one wins. It'll be up in a week. It'll be up soon.
Actually, it'll be up the very moment you see this video.
Yeah, it'll be up when the video's up.
Correct.
On YouTube.
Correcto mundo.
That's always a good time to put it up.
Yeah. I think it should be up when it goes live.
Motorcycle.com. Read it. You can read. The end.